Road Ben is a thing. I have him as a top 5 quarterback play. Am I crazy to have him ranked as such, Matthew?
It's certainly optimistic. The argument you would make, I guess I don't need to make your argument for you, but it's just that they're not going to be able to play defense either. They give up a ton of points. We expect this to be a very high-scoring game here.
Yep.
But I'm nervous about this, right? I mean, on the road since 2015. He's averaged under 14 fantasy points per game. His average weekly rank over his last 5 road starts, QB 13. Look, on the road since the beginning of last season, 13 touchdown passes against 9 interceptions. It's a bad defense. I get it. So, I have him ranked 13. I could see him easily outscoring that. I don't feel strongly about my 13th rank. I don't think he's a sit this week. If you have him on your roster, I don't think you need to go to the waiver wire and pick somebody else up if he's your only quarterback. This isn't a road start that necessarily scares me, but it's hard for me to seeing him get big numbers here. I think they lean on James Conner in a significant way on the road against a fired-up Buccaneers team.
I don't want to simplify Ben's road struggles because some of it is inexplicable, but I do think part of it contributes to the fact that they play a healthy number of games each year on the road in outdoor stadiums where the weather can be poor in like late November, early December. I think that's part of it. Should not be nearly as difficult to throw the football on Monday night from a weather standpoint. Now,
the one thing I will say on this, though, real quickly, is I do think there is a change, and I've talked with people around the team, there's a change in offensive philosophy in terms of how when they approach road games. They are more conservative on the road. At least internally, they think that on the team. So my expectation, again, given how hot the Buccaneers offense is that they want to slow the game down here. And so I think you see a lot of James Conner.
Quickly, Jesse James, speaking of James, Jesse James had a pretty good game for them last week, a very good game as a matter of fact. I have a hard time deciphering whether or not that was just luck or if you think he's got a legitimate shot to maintain his role within this passing offense.
I think it's hard to be, it remains to sort of be seen here, right? So tight end number 2 in terms of receiving yards and fantasy points. And if there's a positive here that you want to sit here, opponents are completing an NFL high 74.8% of passes when targeting tight ends against the Buccaneers since the start of last season. They've allowed a touchdown on 7 of 8 red zone drives so far this year. Obviously, he's a big target, Jesse James. My question for you, and I think this will be sort of interesting, is how much of this is Jesse James versus is it going to be Jesse James's role or Vance McDonald getting a little bit healthier?
Doesn't it feel like this is one of those where Jesse James might have more receiving yards than Vance McDonald in 9 games, and Vance McDonald will have more receiving yards than Jesse James in 7 games? Generally speaking, I shy away from tight end timeshares. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been...
But if you're looking for a streamer this week, which, it's the position is so desperate, Field.
Sure.
He is a dart throw. Stefania and I both have Jesse James as a top 13 play this week.
Ryan Fitzpatrick has been red hot. It feels almost insulting to ask, do we need to start him this week? Stefania, are you all aboard the Fitzmagic train?
I'm not quite as aboard as you guys. I definitely feel like my ranking on him needs to come up, but I still
be honest, this is a Princeton-Harvard thing, isn't it?
How'd you know?
I knew it. No, it's if ever a Yale quarterback makes it to the NFL, Stefania will refuse to rank him.
Because we've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick do this before. Maybe not to this degree. Sure. I grant you the numbers are record-setting, but we've seen him get really hot, and then we've seen him go cold. And I'm not, the Steelers are angry. They haven't played well. I have a feeling that this is going to be a different-looking game for Ryan Fitzpatrick than what we saw the first 2 weeks.
Okay, even if it's a little bit of a different-looking game, is there any way you could not, Matthew, if you have picked him up, absent him being your backup to Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, you got to crank him up, right?
I don't know how you don't. First off, there's nothing that the Steelers defense has shown you that makes you feel like, oh boy, this is a tough matchup. And I understand the concern about Fitzpatrick because we have seen him have sort of these big blow-up games and then come back to earth. But when you think about Ryan Fitzpatrick's career, has he ever played with as talented a receiving core as he has on Monday night when you think about a healthy Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and the emerging O.J. Howard? Mm-hmm. I don't know that he has.
No, he's certain. No, I can tell you right now. He has never played with this talented of wide receivers. Even that last year with Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, this is a better group. He needs to be started. Yeah. Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin, part of that very talented receiving group you just mentioned, Matthew. Is there a differentiation between these two? Is there one that you feel like, hey, here's the one that over the life of this season will be the counterpunch to Mike Evans that you can use each week?
I think it's Deshaun Jackson as long as he is healthy. I think Chris Godwin is a talent and a terrific young wide receiver. But Jackson, because of his experience in the NFL, he's got a little bit more of a route tree. And it seems like Fitzpatrick, maybe there's a deference to Deshaun Jackson. Maybe there's more of a connection. I mean, he wore Deshaun Jackson's clothes to the press conference.
Yeah.
No, you're joking.
I'm
but
being funny. Yes.
But you guys are joking. But it does show a good relationship between the two.
Well, I think Deshaun Jackson is the bigger upside play, and then also Chris Godwin popped up on the injury report with the toe issue, so I give the edge to Deshaun this week.
Earlier on the podcast this week, Mike Clay noted that O.J. Howard's actually run the third most routes on this team.
Yep.
Interesting to note, he has been productive for them over, at least he was last week, cracks the top 15 for tight end rankings this week. Big, talented tight end. Hopefully, his role stays consistent for the Buccaneers.
He's still out there in a decent amount of leagues. Real quickly, I want to give you one stat that Thirsty Kyle came up with that I think is sort of amazing. Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2018 is averaging 1.03 fantasy points per pass attempt. Okay? Remember Peyton Manning in 2013, that historic year?
No recollection.
Averaged 0.64 fantasy points per pass attempt. Deshaun Watson last year on his magical run, 0.63 fantasy points per pass attempt. Almost double Ryan Fitzpatrick is doing that on fantasy points per pass attempt, meaning that even some regression would still put him on a record-setting pace. A significant regression would still put him on a record-setting pace. That's unbelievable what Fitzmagic is doing.